I want to tell you a story about a refinery in Rajasthan, India, on April 20th, just one day before Prime Minister Modi was supposed to inaugurate it. An explosion ripped through the very heart of this refinery. It happened in the crude distillation unit, literally the most important part of the refinery. And said there might have been a hydrocarbon leak that caused the explosion. Maybe. They're not sure. Maybe that's exactly what it was. Maybe it wasn't. But if you stop there, then, of course, you're missing the bigger story, which is why are so many oil refineries suddenly exploding around the world? I mean, here at Redacted, we don't believe in coincidences at all, just like the 15 NASA scientists, anti-gravity researchers, UFO gatekeepers who are all now missing or dead, suicided or murdered in the past few months. Something is not adding up. So because Rajasthan, India, their plant was not alone, not even close. In just the span of a few weeks since Israel's war with Iran broke out, refinery and oil site fires have erupted across multiple countries, almost too many to capture and count. Texas, Australia, India, Mexico, Ecuador, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, the UAE, Russia. Now, some were accidents, to be sure, or at least were told, maybe to save face. Some were verifiably proven attacks. Some are still unresolved, meaning more attacks were, more attacks might have been more attacks or more accidents. We don't exactly know. But all of them have one thing in common. These are the places that turn crude oil into the fuel that keeps us alive and keeps food flowing, that keeps us from slipping into famine. And all of them have this in common. Most people have been focused right now on the tankers in the Straits of Hormuz, of course, carrying the oil and natural gas to destinations all around the world. But what if you take that out of the equation and you neutralize the refineries at the start where the raw crude becomes diesel for trucks, where the raw fuel becomes jet fuel for airplanes and becomes gasoline for millions of people and petrol? Then the tankers are an ancillary part of the story going through the Strait of Hormuz. But let's go a layer deeper here and look at more of these. Let's look at more of these suspicious explosions. Easy for me to say. Here's Saudi Arabia. The Ras Tanura oil refinery was hit by drone strikes and is the kingdom's largest refinery. It shut down after the attacks, after this devastation, and as a precaution so it wouldn't spread. Then you have Kuwait here on your screen, closes part of the Mina Al Ahmadi refinery. And then here on your screen right now is the UAE, the Ruwais refinery. That was hit and shut down as well on April 8th. Iran's own Levant refinery was struck in what Iranian authorities themselves called an enemy attack. And then, of course, here's Russia. Take a look at this. Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine has been pounding refinery infrastructure openly and repeatedly, hitting 4 sites like Norsy, the Novoulfnevsk plant. Those are 2 sites that I can pronounce. The other 2 I'm not going to even try to pronounce because it's like a whole bunch of consonants just shoved together. I don't even think there's a vowel in here. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. Novokubayevsk. Anyway.
That's not for us.
That's not for me.
That's not for our accents to try.
I don't have that ability. Talps. I think I could pronounce that one. So that's Talps is the number 4 that was attacked in Russia. These attacks were, by the way, carried out by the British. Redacted has learned through our own sources that the UK is providing targeting, telemetry data, as well as munitions to carry out these attacks against Russian oil infrastructure. It's not Ukraine. This was the UK. And it's a war aimed straight at the energy system. But then what about all of the attacks outside of like a direct war zone? Ukraine, Russia, Iran, UAE, and the Middle East. Port Arthur, Texas. A major explosion, refinery there. Now, Iranian Republican Guard channels have taken credit for this, said it was sabotage by Iran. We don't have any proof of that, but that's what some Iranian-backed or IRGC-backed channels have said. It was sabotage carried out by them. Who knows? Tit for tat, perhaps. Then here's Australia. The Geelong plant. This was a big one, caused widespread panic across the country, a blaze of one of two operating refineries in the country, knocking out production down and forcing Canberra to scramble for supply. 10% of all of the supply flowed through here. And then, of course, you saw the news announce in Australia that many of these petrol stations had run out of gas. We showed you video of the bags or tags hanging over all of those gas pumps saying, sorry, we're out, we have nothing. Then just days ago in Romania, the CET Vest power plant exploded. That's Romania. And then just 2 days after Romania, Erbil, Iraq went up in flames. So here is Iraq. And the Erbil refinery going up in flames. And then if that's not enough, we go to Mexico. Dos Bocas in Mexico. Massive fire ups there, the Mexican state-run petroleum refinery. And then let's not stop there. Let's go to Ecuador. Right after that. Another massive fire at the Esmeraldas refinery, also up in smoke. So, and by the way, this is about a quarter of all of them that I'm showing you here. Rothschild, India, just before the ribbon cutting time, and then Esmeralda in Ecuador. Like, these are not proven attacks. We don't know conclusively that they are. Some look like leaks. And of course, if they're meant to look like a sabotage or a leak, then how are you ever going to know that it was carried out with sabotage? Some look like old-fashioned industrial breakdowns, but we can't be sure. Like the Rothschild one is a brand new frickin' refinery. It was about to have a ribbon cutting ceremony. So that's not old industrial breaking down. We can't be sure what's going on here, but this is happening when the entire global system is already stretched to its limits. Jet fuel shortages, airliners canceling flights left and right. Lufthansa announcing this week that they are canceling thousands of flights because of no fuel, no jet fuel. This is why the story matters, because according to data that was just released, the current Iran war shock is different from older oil crises because it's not just hitting crude oil. It's hitting crude, it's hitting gas, it's hitting refined fuel, and it's hitting fertilizer all at the same time. Of course, it's also hitting helium if you need those things to make silicon and make computer chips. We've had a number of journalists on the show who've been debanked over the years. In fact, one of them just landed in Iran. Wyatt Reed, friend of the show, great journalist who just landed in Iran for his coverage there. I was sitting next to him one afternoon in an interview. In the middle of the interview, he found out that he had just been debanked. Why? For his coverage of the Ukraine war. And so that's where Rumble Wallet comes in. It's a self-custodial wallet that lives inside an ecosystem that actually defends free speech and financial freedom. No bank holding your balance, not even Rumble can touch your funds. This is your money on your keys, on your terms. You can also support creators if you want to do that, but it connects your money to a marketplace of ideas that refuses to cave to censorship. So if you're serious about sovereignty, financial and digital, this is where you level up. Go to wallet.rumble.com or just search for Rumble Wallet in the App Store. Do your research on it, dive deeply into it, download it, back up your recovery phrase, and move your money where it's safe away from these big banks that can debank you at a moment's notice. Wallet.rumble.com is the place to go. But just on the fuel and energy piece of it, it's hitting all of those things simultaneously. It's an impending disaster. It's already happening. Professor Robert Pape, who we had on our show on Monday, said that this disaster is accelerating. Watch. We're about 2 days away now from your sort of prediction. Anything you want to change in your prediction or maybe accelerate it?
We're ahead. Yeah, we're ahead of schedule. So just 4 or 5 days after I made that prediction, and by the way, there's a much longer paper on the Substack that really goes into it. Of course, you can't do that in a tweet. That jet fuel. We're running about a month. It's about a month before we're going to be out of jet fuel in Europe, and you're already seeing that airliners are already cutting back.
Yeah, that was Monday. Now, the shortages have accelerated, major airlines canceling thousands of flights.
Breaking news to bring you now. This is from the IEA chief, the International Energy Agency chief, Fatih Birol, saying that Europe has maybe 6 weeks or so of jet fuel left.
And here in graph today, here are today's numbers of jet fuel supplies that are plummeting, falling off a cliff. Look at the right side of your screen there. So in green is Southeast Asia. You have it broken down by regions, right? Northwest European zone, the Mediterranean zone, the Sea and Black Sea, and you have, Oceania. You have the Middle East and Gulf regions, all of them plummeting right now with their supplies of jet fuel available. And here's PAPE's latest assessment this morning. History is clear. Once shortages begin, the system doesn't stabilize. It tightens, production slows, supply chains break, governments intervene. This is how economic shocks turn into contractions. Excuse me, that was from last night. So history is clear here. Once shortages begin, he said, the system doesn't stabilize, it then tightens up. And that's where you see all of these contractions across the region. Asia's refineries are now cutting runs sharply. Analysts say diesel jet fuel output is dropping by at least 1 million barrels per day, maybe more. So when a refinery catches fire right now, it doesn't happen inside like a stable market that can handle it. It happens inside a market that's already running on empty. And then there's Russia with its direct output to Europe. We already saw, of course, when the United States blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. So add on top of that, the refinery capacity being limited now in Russia, thanks to the British attacks on their refineries. And then, of course, you have the fire that's, think about, like, we care so much about paper frickin' straws. But the fire, the air quality is so bad at these refinery fires. They're warning residents about benzene, xylene, soot. Breathing this air is absolutely horrible. So earlier this month, we learned that British attacks on Russia had knocked out around a fifth of Russia's export capacity. That means Europe specifically getting hammered. And that peaked around 40% in March. So these fires are absolutely part of a deliberate campaign to help usher in Agenda 2030, in my opinion, a campaign of depopulation control. This will make COVID look like child's play. And this energy crisis is going to last a long time. This morning, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said that the Strait of Hormuz will remain blocked until $100 billion in frozen Iranian assets are released. That's not going to happen because that money's already gone. They already spent that money. They already took that money and ran with it. So that's not going to happen. So then what? The strait remains closed. And then about 3 hours ago, you had Israel's Defense Minister Katz clearly reading from something that like Netanyahu had written while he was on the toilet, basically telling him what to say, that Israel is prepared to renew the war against Iran, and it's just waiting on a U.S. green light. And then, of course, today you had J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio being rushed to the White House in what people were describing, or the press, the Mockingbird media was describing as an urgent meeting because Netanyahu wants his war back. So here we go. And by the way, Iran published this. You just think about the oil and infrastructure. They also published this today. This is the internet, which runs right through there. 97% of global internet traffic rides on these undersea cables that go through there. I mean, we're talking AI, banking, everything. And so why are they publishing that? Why is Iran showing us that? Well, because if they cut one of these freaking cables, it could be absolutely devastating. If they cut all of them, imagine what would happen as a result of that.
President Trump couldn't tweet.
Right. He wouldn't be able to publish on Truth Social. So let us know your thoughts on that.
Whose idea was it to put like all of these critical global structures in one contentious area?
The most, the hot spot.
Yeah. Who thought that up?
Like, hey, let's put it right off the coast of Yemen. Let's put it like all of this infrastructure right there next to where they've had wars nonstop since the 1940s. Let's do that.
Right.
Like all this critical infrastructure.
And while we're at it, critical helium, fertilizer, oil. Is there anything else that comes out of there that we need? Like, is that where all the bees live? Yeah. Do all the bees live there too?
Well, you got to wonder. I mean, this is why the United States is kind of sitting fine at the moment. I mean, not for Americans, but like for the United States government, which can then try to reposition itself away from the Saudi Arabian petrodollar into a North American, United States-backed U.S. dollar, which is hemorrhaging, of course. We are self-sustained with our own energy supply in the United States. We're forcing these countries now to come to us to get liquefied natural gas, gasoline. All of these tankers are pulling into the Gulf of America and getting all of this stuff. So it's great for us.